Hi everyone, I wanted to do a quick lecture about Adobe Premiere Pro and bridging to Adobe Audition. And what you see in the screen share now is my personal copy of Premiere Pro and a lecture that I did for another class that I wasn't happy with the microphone, the tenor of the microphone. It had too much sibilance and it had a little bit of distortion. I also thought it was peaking a little too high, so it was over-modulating. All these things are phrases that you'll learn in time, either in this course or in the editing course in the spring, 373. So anyway, so what I've got here on screen are I've got an audio file that's been corrected and then one that is raw. And we have to learn to see a waveform for what is there. So the first thing I did is I went over into the controls and I took what was a difficult to see waveform and I expanded it outward. And what I see in the raw is audio that's peaking and then coming down much lower, peaking, coming down lower. And this is from my raw camera microphone. I purchased a mic, it just hasn't arrived yet. And I think that my exhaust fan on my computer is affecting the quality of the audio in this lecture and in the previous lectures. Hopefully they get better next week. But in the case of this lecture that I recorded earlier, I wanted to show you how I went about fixing it, because I think it'll be useful for you guys as you're podcasting or as you're working on your class projects. So two waveforms, one that is from the raw recording and one that is has been fixed. And I did two steps. The first thing I did is I went to the Essential Audio panel and I enhanced it for male speech, and I removed some of the noise. I removed some of the sibilance, which is the hard S sound you get with distortion and with overmodulation. Overmodulation is when audio comes too hot into your system. You stand super close to a speaker at a concert, looks great, but when you get home and the music is unlistenable, that's called overmodulation. It distorts on the top end. And you see a flattening of the waveform in that case. And this flattening of the waveform here, if I were to zoom in, it probably would look really flat in individual sections. And that's that flattening is when audio can't hit its natural peak, and so the recording gets sort of sheared off like a flat top haircut. So this is pre-fix and this is after fix. What I want to show you is I want to show you editing this in Adobe Audition. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to let me see if I can find it. Edit clip in Adobe Audition. It's right here towards the top of the menu. Hi, everybody. For the second part of this lecture, I am now bridged over to Audition. And I want to show you some of the basic tools for really easy, really straightforward audio correction. The first is the de-esser, which removes that sibilance, which is a result of overmodulation in a lot of cases, or noise. Someone spitting into a microphone. In my case, I have just a really cheap computer microphone that I'm using today. And as I've mentioned in other places, I will replace this with a slightly better microphone in a few days. So next week's lectures and through the rest of the semester, hopefully will sound a little better. But we're looking at an Audition waveform. This is the waveform itself, which is the most important piece of information in audio editing. Obviously in video editing, that's the clip, but a waveform is more of a natural form. It's like waves that hit the beach, where you can't really take a wave and cut it into a piece naturally. You can do it artificially. It's one of the complaints about people who prefer LPs to CD music or digital music of any form. People prefer the LP because that's a natural wave that has what they find to be a better sound. I don't have the ears for that, so for me, audio from a record or audio from a CD sounds about the same. And I mean, I get that there's noise and distortion in some way on the LP caused by wear or caused by the life of the record. That's really interesting and fun to listen to. But when I hear a really clean LP and I hear a really clean digital file, I'm not hearing that sampling but other people, I believe, do hear it. And I think that they don't find it to be as rewarding an experience to hear the digitally sampled versus the naturally wave formed. So waveform, our most important tool. I know from listening to this that I have sibilance and noise that I want to deal with. So the rest of this lecture will take me 1 minute. I want to show you where these tools are. So you go from, you'll open Audition and it'll be in the media browser. What I want you to do is I want you to go to the effects rack, and in the effects rack, first, let's do a de-esser, and the de-esser is a tool that will remove those S sounds. And I can output sibilance only, so I can hear the sibilance. And when I hit play, I'll be able to hear just the sibilance in that file. So you hear that S sound. It's a little harsh, a little hard on the ears. So I'm going to cut that. So that is now, the parameters are set here in the sibilance tool. It's in my effects rack. It's not applied to my audio clip though until I actually apply it. It's a safety measure, and it's much like doing destructive editing in Photoshop. If you change your base layer, it's hard to get back to it. Now there's always in Premiere a backup, right? Because we're not overwriting the original. The original still exists on the hard drive, and now this new version will exist as well. But what the bridge does is it replaces the original with the new in your timeline, right? So that's where you have to be careful. The timeline will have the new version. Your bin and your hard drive will have both the new and the old. And so I find that sometimes a student may overdo these things. They may overdo noise correction, or they overdo sibilance or reverb, all these different problems that we have, and they'll need to step back. So often what I advise is, okay, let's take the fixed version and the original version. Let's put them together on 2 different tracks, and let's try mixing between the 2. So anyways, the second thing I want to do, I want to go down to the second effect in the effects rack, and I'm going to go to noise reduction, and I like to do an automatic denoising process. And it's really a great tool. The way this tool works is I can adjust the amount of noise that I'm removing, and I can adjust the frequency range. So midtones, lower frequencies, higher frequencies, and then these two are sort of a more sort of natural wave-like form. I just like the midtones area, so I tend to work in that. I hit play, and I can output, if I can see it, I can output the noise only and listen for just the noise. It's just not showing up here. And I can adjust this based on my ear. So if I were doing this for real in a movie, I'd be much more careful. There it is, my output noise only tool. So I hear weird stuff going on in the background, my computer fan, but I don't like to work in that extreme a number. So for me, that midpoint is a good one. So I'll do that. I'll stop. And now what I've got is I've got these 2 effects. I'm going to apply those effects, and it will save that. Then if I go and save the project, it now sends it over to Premiere. So if I don't save it, it doesn't go to Premiere. So it's got a kind of multiple safety check here. I save it, I close it, and now back in Premiere, which is not going to screen share here, but back in Premiere is the updated waveform, and that's how you do a very simple noise correction using the bridge between Premiere and Audition.